My name is Heather Zanoni.
I'm Kanika Padungsat.
And I'm Melissa Bays.
London is a leading global city. It's relatively dense.
Taking a look here, you can see that during the winter, rainfall is much more excessive. At this point, it's definitely to the point where rainfall is becoming more frequent and intense, which is encouraging more flooding. Because of sea level rise and tidal surge increase, this is certainly not very conducive to not flooding situations.
Additionally, in the summer, temperatures are getting hotter. So with hotter temperatures come droughts and heat waves. Some of the heat waves, they've had one within the last 5 years, and it killed quite a number of people. I believe the number is over 600 people died because of the heat waves.
Also, a majority of the city's power plants are aging and not being replaced fast enough to meet the city's energy consumption. So renewable energy initiatives and also other clean energy options are also not developing fast enough. And then a third of the pipes are about 150 years old, and it does contribute to lots of leaking. And there is about 600 million liters of treated water loss to the aging pipes per day. And then about 75,000 miles of the roads and pavements do rely on the drainage system to prevent flooding. In addition, emergency services and utilities infrastructure that the city relies on during floods also lie in high flood risk areas.
Firms are a huge contributor to the world's economy. London is a place of great economic growth. A lot of stuff is going on there. Obviously, you can see it's home to 33% of the world's largest companies, attributing to 17% of the UK's total gross domestic product. When you look at the numbers of the properties, schools, hospitals, 10 hospitals in a flood zone, that's interesting considering when floods happen, people get hurt, and if the hospitals are in the floodplains, you've got a giant problem. And then lastly, health and safety, which I think can sometimes be one of the obvious ones, but obviously it's a risk to employees during extreme weather to get to work, for anyone to attempt to go to a business. So in thinking about mitigation strategies for London in both firms and households, the London plan, which is with the Greater London Authority and the Mayor have put forth as the plan for 2011, calls for a 60% decrease in emissions overall by 2025, and that's fantastic because that's not too far off, and a lot of times you see these as being much further down the line. Improvements on building regulations, which will require, of course, energy assessments. All new buildings are going to be zero carbon by 2019, households and firms, and building energy efficient plans, or the BEEP, as I like to call it, provide a mechanism for which firms can learn about how to best cut emissions from buildings, and that's actually supported by the Clinton Global Initiative. Regarding adaptation, it's important that businesses and homes alike, really, but they're undergoing climate risk assessments to plan for what this is going to look like for them in the future. That's under the business area's climate impacts assessment tool, which can be found by linking to the Greater London Authority page. Implementing a business continuity plan. I put a little star there because I thought it was interesting that what to think about if businesses don't put in place a continuity plan. And an example was that an estimated 60% of local businesses that didn't have this in place went bankrupt within 1 year of the Carlisle flood of 2005. And while Carlisle is a number of miles from London, it's a great indicator and a really good example of why businesses should take this into account and why it's important. Strategic planning, of course, the national, regional, and local government levels, adapting policies that lead to sustainable development, and that is through, like we said earlier, the London Plan for 2011, and the TE 2100, which is the Thames Estuary Plan, which you can imagine is not set to be installed until 2100, so it's quite a ways down the line.
They also need to update and assess their current infrastructure through research and development. So right now they don't have a good database of the stock of buildings and infrastructure, and they need to definitely look into doing that in order to best mitigate and adapt for the future. So transportation is a big one. The power supply, so they are continuing to close down these old facilities and they're reaching their end of life, but they're not replacing them fast enough. They are looking into making their building stock more efficient, but they're not necessarily looking into making it in less flood-proof areas. And then also their water supply. So they have old leaky pipes. They're also, because of drought and flood risk, their water their whole system could be overflowed, or they could need more water at certain times. So one thing that they could look into is reservoirs, which they're actually looking into in the Everglades to hold water when it's over capacity, and then to release it when it is in need.